Yusu, the scheduler, finally remembers his past life with Ji-hyun, and the emotional weight of it is overwhelming. As he looks at her worn-out face, he is struck with grief and asks, "What have you done to yourself?" This shakes Ji-hyun, who reminds him that she's Ji-hyun, pulling him out of his memory. Yusu becomes distressed as he connects a missing piece regarding a photo found in Ji-hyun's locker. It triggers a heartbreaking realization. A flashback shows their painful argument. Ji-hyun had been accusing him of using music as an excuse to cover up a relationship, while Yusu felt understood and suffocated. In a fit of frustration, Yusu yells that he's tired of her, and the idea of marrying her fills him with dread, comparing her to the same person she was when she was 5. The emotional impact is immense as Yusu finally grasps the full weight of his past mistakes and their consequences. After their explosive argument, Yusu said the scheduler went away for a few weeks to perform with his band and worked construction during the day. Over time, his anger subsided, and he bought a set of couple rings engraved with a Hess love Kea, symbolizing his love for Ji-hyun. On his way back to Seoul, he looked at the rings while riding his bike, thinking about reconciling with Ji-hyun. Unfortunately, his life took a tragic turn when he collided with a truck, leaving him twitching on the ground and reflecting on the happy moments of his life in his final moments. It's an incredibly heartbreaking emotional sequence. Yusu realizes that the photo of him and Ji-hyun was taken while he was asleep, and he wants to explain things to her immediately. However, he feels something is off about his memory returning. He calls his Reaper Sunbae to express his anger about Ji-hyun's suffering over the past 5 years, but instead of an answer, he receives a summons. Afterward, he sends Ji-hyun away with a heartfelt "take care," which takes on extra meaning as it literally refers to her physical well-being. On her way home, Ji-hyun reflects on the idea of truth and how love can be misunderstood, pondering how to convey feelings that remain unseen. In-jung seeks the help of a shaman, which is amusing given the drama's surreal tone. The shaman tells her that she's in a bind but at least hasn't died, as that would have resulted in a haunting. To resolve her situation, she must expel the soul from her body, though how to do so is unclear. Meanwhile, at Heaven, Manager Oh and his wife have an argument. She's upset about his secrecy regarding his discussions with Kang, feeling that their marital trust is being undermined. Manager O, overwhelmed, breaks down, explaining he has an important reason for keeping things secret and is just as miserable. His wife, moved by his tears, rushes back to his side, telling Kang he must really love me to cry like this. Kang has a realization after hearing about the proof of love puzzle. Recalling how Ji-hyun had clutched her tear-shaped pendant every time he mentioned she was Ji-hyun, the pendant's change sparks his curiosity, so he slyly asks about it, testing Ji-hyun's response. Ji-hyun admits it changed the day she submitted her resignation, which makes Kang connect the dots. He remembers visiting Ji-hyun in the hospital and crying that day, thinking, "Then is that my tear." Ji-hyun is stunned by his revelation, silently asking herself if it was indeed Kang who left that tear. Ji-hyun's eyes fill with tears as she thanks Kang, who quickly sends her back to work when he notices her fear about her necklace. Meanwhile, Minho is fully committed to his evil plans, making moves with his business partner in a rival company. Kang, now realizing a key piece of the Ji-hyun is a ghost mystery, decides to swallow his pride and seek his father's help to tackle the Haemido issue. Kang's maturity is growing, and he's ready for action. Manager O suggests that Kang try to get to know the real Ji-hyun to avoid making his interests seem creepy. Ji-hyun is about to meet Minho outside when Kang grabs her arm, stopping her. They both continue pretending that she's Ji-hyun, though it's clear from their interactions that they both know more than they're letting on. Ji-hyun reassures Kang that she'll return after dealing with Minho, so he reluctantly lets her go. Minho, frustrated, demands that Ji-hyun quit her job, but Ji-hyun calmly responds that she has someone she likes there and doesn't want to see him anymore. Minho, hurt, asks if she ever liked him, and Ji-hyun firmly answers, "No, not for one moment," adding that she had only fooled herself, just like he's fooling himself now. Kang can't hold back anymore and pulls Ji-hyun away from Minho, telling him to stay away from both her and his restaurant. Minho, suspicious, asks if Ji-hyun was the woman Kang had wanted to find when he returned to Korea. Kang acknowledges their past closeness but doesn't confirm anything and takes Ji-hyun away. In the car, Ji-hyun reassures Kang that she stood up to Minho, which calms him down. He insists she shouldn't be out alone at night and offers to drive her home. Ji-hyun, with only a few days left, quietly reflects on how long it took her to realize her feelings for Kang. Later, Ji-hyun wakes up and Ji-hyun happily tells her that the scheduler remembers her. Ji-hyun tests if Ji-hyun can hear her, calling her softly, but Ji-hyun doesn't respond. Ji-hyun continues, reassuring her that Yusu loved her deeply. Ji-hyun begins to wonder how Ji-hyun knows Yusu, and it's revealed that she can hear him. Yusu follows her as she walks to work, staying by her side and metaphorically lighting her way. He watches her as she works, remembering her pain from being abandoned by him, and apologizes, which she hears. She clutches her chest in response, feeling the emotional weight of his apology, but Yusu holds back from comforting her. At the same time, Kang enters the cafe unaware of the spiritual connection between Yusu and Ji-hyun. There's a poignant moment where both Yusu and Kang, in their own ways, express their love for Ji-hyun. Ji-hyun shows a flicker of recognition when Kang enters, but they interact as if everything is normal, maintaining the dynamic of a customer and employee. In-jung watches Ji-hyun and is puzzled by Kang's behavior, which leads her to overhear conversations and notice strange dynamics. Kang, upon leaving the cafe, realizes that Ji-hyun doesn't remember him, though her nervous glances suggest otherwise. Back at Ji-hyun's apartment, Ji-hyun's spirit energy is fading. Yusu returns after seeking permission from higher powers to appear before Ji-hyun in his true form, but his request is denied. They explain that Yusu's regained memories are due to Ji-hyun's influence. Yusu warns Ji-hyun that if she harms Ji-hyun during her remaining time, there will be severe consequences, both literally and figuratively. In the morning, a hungover Minho is confronted by In-jung, who acts like his girlfriend despite their broken relationship and serves him breakfast. She claims she's the only one who would do such things for him, which is both true and sad. In-jung asserts that Minho wouldn't have been able to be with Ji-hyun even without Ji-hyun's spirit inside her, implying he can't get rid of her. She hints that Kang is aware of Ji-hyun's true identity and suggests they could find a way to get rid of the spirit host situation, sounding almost like a threat. When Ji-hyun returns home, Seo informs her that she wants to live separately, showing a newfound clarity and decisiveness. Seo, once blind to the truth, now confidently calls out In-jung for her wrongdoings. Refusing to make excuses, she reflects on how, after the accident, she felt guilty for not grieving as deeply as In-jung, only to realize that In-jung's sorrow was a facade. In-jung admits her jealousy of Ji-hyun, but her reasoning feels petty and shallow. She tries to manipulate Seo by revealing that Kang is in love with Ji-hyun, and that he's caring for Ji-hyun because of his feelings for Ji-hyun. In-jung hopes this will make Seo question her loyalty, but Seo remains unmoved. Meanwhile, Ji-hyun, inspired by the regret of a fellow 49er, makes a list of people to whom she wants to express gratitude, ultimately crossing In-jung off the list, realizing she doesn't owe her anything. Ji-hyun realizes that Seo hasn't shed a tear, giving her hope for the future. She excitedly goes to the bakery to cheer up Seo, but Seo is hurt and accuses Ji-hyun of deceiving them about knowing Ji-hyun's true identity. Meanwhile, Ji-hyun's father is recovering well after surgery and will be able to go home soon. He shares with Mom and Kang that he met Ji-hyun during the surgery, which tugs at the heartstrings, as Ji-hyun played a role in bringing him back to life. In a happy turn of events, Mom and Kang visit Ji-hyun, and Kang asks for a seaweed soup recipe. Mom reveals that she has some because it's Ji-hyun's birthday, adding to the sweet timing of the moment. Kang invites Ji-hyun over to his place, claiming he made too much food and needs her help to clear the table. To avoid raising suspicion, he tells her it's because of Children's Day in America, where people eat seaweed soup. Surprisingly, Ji-hyun catches on and realizes he made it for her. As she eats, she recognizes the taste of her mother's cooking and tells him Ji-hyun would be thankful, while both silently share a moment of connection. Kang wishing her a happy birthday and her silently thanking him. Kang then suggests they shift from a polite, formal way of speaking and gendarme to a closer, informal way, a bemol. He updates her on her father's recovery, and Ji-hyun promises to pass on her thanks him when she's back. Kang visits Seo-woo, hoping both of Ji-hyun's remaining friends will remember her birthday. But Seo-woo is still upset after discovering that Kang is in love with Ji-hyun. She asks when he became interested in her friend. Meanwhile, Minho uses his money to force Ji-hyun out of her apartment by offering the landlord triple the rent. He kicks her out immediately, a classic villain move to put pressure on Ji-hyun and make her more vulnerable. He uses this situation to force her into meeting him for dinner, and she agrees, fearing the complications it might cause for Yik-young. At dinner, Minho catches Ji-hyun off guard when he mentions her dislike of Sujibi, realizing that she's not truly Yik-young. He confronts her about her true identity, demanding to know why she approached him. Panicked, Ji-hyun runs away, considering calling Kang, but ultimately deciding against it. Instead, she goes to Yusu for help, but he is upset and distances himself as he now only sees Yik-young when he looks at her. Ji-hyun, not backing down, challenges him, asking who took her life prematurely with the suicide attempt, and if they were punished for it. Yusu vaguely answers that she was probably punished. Ji-hyun, sensing his evasion, guesses that Yik-young was the one who caused her death, realizing she was made to enter the body of the person who killed her. Ji-hyun, overwhelmed with frustration, screams about the challenges she's facing. She has only 11 days left. In-jung has betrayed her, and Minho has discovered her true identity. She feels alone, unable to talk to anyone, not even the scheduler, because she now carries Yik-young's appearance, the person who caused her death, and yet she's come to care for her. Yuzu tries to empathize with her pain, but Ji-hyun fires back, expressing her own heartbreak, particularly her love for Kang, which she can't reveal because it might lead to her death. She begins to cry, and Yusu, clearly uncomfortable and unable to handle her tears, tries to offer comfort, but Ji-hyun pushes him away, telling him to stay away from Yik-young unless she calls for him. Yuzu and Ji-hyun both question why Yik-young's body had to be the host, but the answer seems obvious. It creates conflict. Ji-hyun is resentful, especially since she was once so concerned for Yik-young. One night, while sitting beside her, Ji-hyun angrily cries out, blaming Yik-young for everything. In a moment of intense emotion, Ji-hyun unknowingly makes contact with something solid, flinging chopsticks from Yik-young's hand. Yik-young, startled, senses something strange and looks in the direction of the disturbance, seeing Ji-hyun's blurry form. Yik-young asks why Ji-hyun is doing this, but before Ji-hyun can respond, the landlord arrives, informing Yik-young that she must vacate the apartment in a week. Ji-hyun feels sorry, but Yik-hyun, frightened, runs away. Later, at the cafe, Minho meets Yik-young, knowing she's not Ji-hyun. He offers her a job at a pension in Busan, trying to get her out of his life and hinting at the situation with her body. Yik-young visits Dr. Na in the morning, seeking his advice about the strange situation with Ji-hyun's soul inhabiting her body. No agrees with the concern that two souls sharing one body might not be sustainable and that one soul could try to take over permanently. Later, Yik-young senses Ji-hyun's presence and can make out her image. When she opens her door, she asks Ji-hyun to leave, and feeling guilty, complies. Outside, Ji-hyun struggles with her diminishing energy. Yik-young, preparing to leave, packs only a small bag and tells her landlady to dispose of the rest of her things. Ji-hyun, worried about Yik-young's departure, confides in Yusu, but he harshly reminds her that it's her fault. He compares her situation to his own and, despite the emotional weight, refuses to intervene, fearing it would jeopardize his chance of resolving his own issues with Yik-young. Kang arrives in the neighborhood just as Yik-young hurriedly gets into a cab, seemingly fleeing. Noticing her change in appearance, he confirms with the landlord that she has moved out. Realizing that no host means no Ji-hyun in her physical form, he urgently runs outside, calling her name. Meanwhile, Yik-young boards a train to Busan, and Ji-hyun, losing her energy, collapses on the sidewalk. Kang, in a state of panic after seeing Yik-young leave, desperately runs through the streets shouting Ji-hyun's name, unaware that she is a ghost. He then contacts Yik-young's taxi, trying to track her down, all the while referring to Yik-young as his wife, which adds emotional weight to his actions. Meanwhile, Yusu finds Ji-hyun collapsed from exhaustion and takes her to Seoul Station, where Yik-young is heading. Yusu gives Ji-hyun a somewhat cold and distant warning, urging her to bring Yik-young back. On the train, Kang boards ahead of Ji-hyun, who follows just before the train departs. When she approaches Yik-young, she tries to explain, but Yik-young, already aware of the situation, coldly refuses to help, saying she won't lend her body to a ghost. Kang explains to Yik-young that Ji-hyun needs her help to survive, And just as he speaks, Ji-hyun enters the car, sitting beside Iki-young. She apologizes and tearfully begs for help, saying she just wants 10 more days to live, to see her parents and Kang once more. Iki-young, sensing Ji-hyun's presence and hearing her voice, becomes visibly affected. Kang, noticing the change, asks if Ji-hyun has arrived. Moved by Ji-hyun's desperate pleas, Iki-young softens, understanding the gravity of the situation, but remains conflicted. Meanwhile, Minho meets with Yuki-young's new landlady and learns that someone had come looking for her, causing a fuss, but was unable to catch her before she left. Kang drives Ji-hyun and Ji-hyun back in his car, where Ji-hyun shares that she started to hear and see Ji-hyun recently. She also has fragments of Ji-hyun's memories, though her understanding is incomplete. Kang asks about Ji-hyun's condition, and Ji-hyun relays Ji-hyun's message. Tell him I'm fine. The scheduler, Yusu, joins them, and Ji-hyun worries about the implications of Kang knowing everything, especially since Ji-hyun can now perceive her. Yusu reassures her, explaining that this happens when two souls are compatible, attributing it to Ji-hyun's pure nature. Ji-hyun and Ji-hyun have a heart-to-heart conversation for the first time. Ji-hyun apologizes for the accident, but Ji-hyun reassures her it's not entirely her fault. Ji-hyun can't reveal the details of her 49-day mission, but assures Ji-hyun that she wasn't sent for revenge. Ji-hyun agrees to host her for the remaining 10 days to repay her debt for the accident. Outside, Kang is waiting and the two share a happy reunion. However, they both continue to pretend, with Kang knowing the truth, but still acting as if Ji-hyun is Ji-hyun. Ji-hyun explains she has family matters to attend to, promising to report for work the next day, and Kang agrees to pick her up in the morning. While Ji-hyun is grocery shopping, Yusu shows up and acts playful with her. She reminds him that she's Ji-hyun, and he jokingly grumbles that his sunbae is testing his patience. He also teases her about her budding relationship with Kang and forbids her from any skinship while she's in Ji-hyun's body. Later, Ji-hyun spends the afternoon cooking, and when Ji-hyun wakes up, she finds a table full of food with a note from Ji-hyun saying she wanted to cook for her and had thrown away the instant ramen. Ji-hyun joins her, encouraging her to eat and mentioning that Yusu had advised her on the side dishes. Ji-hyun is startled when Ji-hyun mentions Yusu's name, and Ji-hyun reveals that Yusu has been waiting 5 years to meet her again. She also explains that there are things happening in the spiritual realm that Ji-hyun and others are unaware of. To prove she knows about Yusu, Ji-hyun shares details about his preferences, like how Yusu pretended to like Vienna sausages because Ji-hyun liked them, and how he worked multiple jobs to support them while still packing Ji-hyun's lunches. Moved by these memories, Ji-hyun asks if Ji-hyun has seen Yusu. Ji-hyun confirms she has, but explains that Yusu didn't know about the photo with the other girl. She can't reveal more, but assures Ji-hyun that Yusu will tell her everything eventually. Ji-hyun, filled with hope, asks if she can really meet Yusu, and Ji-hyun reassures her that she will be able to see him soon, asking her to wait. Meanwhile, Kang waits outside Ji-hyun's apartment to make sure everything is okay. This prompts a second lurker, In-jung, who hides when she sees Ji-hyun leaving and notices Kang observing her. The scene humorously points out how characters in this drama often can't see beyond a small radius, making In-jung's hiding behind a telephone pole a bit too convenient. In-jung informs Minho that Yin didn't leave as planned, and Minho finds her at the cafe talking to Dr. Na. Ji-hyun tells him she has rid herself of her ghost, but Minho doesn't trust her and thinks it's still Ji-hyun in her body. Ji-hyun confidently explains that she'll pretend to be Ji-hyun while working at Heaven, but won't let the spirit fully take over her body. She asserts that Minho doesn't have the right to control her or threaten her. It's a moment of empowerment for Ji-hyun, which feels poignant given her previous depression. Minho, still skeptical, comments that Ji-hyun's spirit is very similar to Ji-hyun, noting her hateful glare. Meanwhile, Ji-hyun and Yusu watch, with Ji-hyun noting that this fake-out was Ji-hyun's idea, to which Yusu humorously agrees. Kang receives a call from Daddy Shin revealing that JC Consulting is a scam and his company is going bankrupt. Kang rushes to the hospital to inform his mom, who is concerned about Minho's lack of action. At home, Kang reflects on Ji-hyun's seal and the Haemido deal, which relied on selling her land. The next morning, Kang arrives to pick up Ji-hyun, and she prepares herself before letting him in. He gives her the seal, confirming that Ji-hyun entrusted it to her for company business. Ji-hyun starts to cry, realizing the bankruptcy, but her pendant warns her, signaling something deeper at play. Kang and Ji-hyun seek out his mom, who struggles to tell his dad the bad news about the company's bankruptcy. Kang reassures her that there's a way to stop it, and Ji-hyun produces the seal Ji-hyun had entrusted to her on the day of the accident. This seal will allow them to secure a loan using Ji-hyun's land and prevent the bankruptcy, but they must keep it secret from Minho and the company. News about the company's impending bankruptcy spreads, but Ji-hyun's seal helps her mom sign documents to secure the loan. Meanwhile, In-jung is pleased to see the media reports and the stock price drop. Team Kang holds secret meetings with Kang's employee acting as a double agent for Minho. Minho's spy reports on Yi-kyung's mundane activities, leading him to believe she's telling the truth about denying Ji-hyun control of her body. However, Team Kang manages to raise 4 billion won, thwarting the bankruptcy, and they celebrate the victory. Ji-hyun is so excited she almost hugs Kang, but both hesitate at the last moment, with Ji-hyun recalling Yisu's rule against any skinship in Yi-kyung's body, causing her to pout. Kang notices Ji-hyun's disappointment and cheers her up by calling her Song Yi-kyung Nuna in a teasing way, which makes her smile. She's frustrated because she doesn't want to be called Nuna by him, as she feels he's more of an oppa than anyone else. This playful exchange is endearing, and they share a sweet, unspoken understanding about their feelings. Ji-hyun admits she can't express herself fully or acknowledge him in her current body, but Kang reassures her that he understands, saying he's already heard and seen everything. Later that night, In-jung waits outside Ji-hyun's door and comes in to search for Ji-hyun's soul, still in Yi-kyung's body. Ji-hyun plays along and pretends to not understand the confusion. In-jung assumes she's Ji-hyun and confronts her, questioning why she's doing all of this. Ji-hyun, frustrated, knows In-jung doesn't understand the deeper reasons behind her actions, especially given how In-jung has been destroying her family. Ji-hyun confronts In-jung, revealing that if she were truly Shen Ji-hyun, she could haunt In-jung forever, using Yi-kyung's body or even wandering as a spirit. She uses In-jung's fear of being haunted as leverage, knowing it will unsettle her, especially since no one else understands the rules of the spirit world. In-jung gets scared at the possibility of being tormented forever by Ji-hyun. Meanwhile, Minho struggles to understand why his plan was thwarted when Yi-kyung hadn't allowed Ji-hyun to use her body for 3 days. In-jung, however, believes Ji-hyun could have still taken over. She's also worried that Ji-hyun may have recovered her seal to secure the loan. When In-jung returns home, she finds Seo-woo packing and confronting her about causing the bankruptcy. Seo-woo angrily declares that their relationship is over, and no amount of regret will change that. In-jung's plea for forgiveness is rejected as too little, too late. In-jung reflects on her past, admitting she deceived Minho by claiming to be the daughter of Daddy Shin when she was struggling and her lies spiraled out of control. She acknowledges she can't stop Minho now, but vows to prevent him from completely ruining Ji-hyun's parents. Seo-woo, unmoved, tells In-jung to go live with Minho instead of clinging to her. Ji-hyun worries that the bankruptcy setback won't be enough to stop Minho for good. Yi-kyung comments on the value of family, noting that even in the face of death, you can't just think of yourself. She asks Ji-hyun what she plans to do about Kang, sensing their feelings for each other. Ji-hyun fears that the closer she gets to Kang, the more painful it will be to part from him. And the thought of leaving him behind fills her with dread, making her feel hopeless about surviving. Seo-woo meets with Kang and informs him that she's moved out, remarking that Ji-hyun is lucky to have her as a friend. She also asks if Kang would ever look at another woman if Ji-hyun never wakes up, surprising him by referring to herself in the question. Kang is caught off guard but remains quiet. Unable to reach Ji-hyun on the phone, Kang tracks her location through GPS. The scheduler's voice unexpectedly provides not only her location but also the room number and the owner's name, Kang Min Ho. Ji-hyun, using Yi-kyung's birthday as Minho's new door code, arrives at his apartment. She tries Minho's mother's birthday for the safe code, and it works only to find the safe empty. As she searches, she runs into Minho, who addresses her as Ji-hyun with certainty. Shocked, she stumbles back, fainting, which causes her soul to eject from Yi-kyung's body, leaving Yi-kyung standing in her place. Yi-kyung quickly regains her composure now that she's aligned with her ghost, Pointing out that Minho fell for Ji-hyun while she was in her body, she asks, "Can't you even recognize the woman you love?" Minho, frustrated, admits, "I'm going crazy. Not knowing who I love." Minho warns Ji-hyun that he will destroy the company and claim Hamido to compensate for the turmoil Ji-hyun caused him. Ji-hyun remarks that Minho is still in love with Ji-hyun. Minho brings in a group of cronies, one of whom is a shaman tasked with exorcising the spirit from Ji-hyun's body. The scene becomes unintentionally humorous as Ji-hyun sits bored while the shaman tries to assess the spirit. The shaman declares that there's no other soul in the body but pauses when he senses something near Ji-hyun, who is frozen in shock. Just as the shaman declares that the spirit has been found, the doorbell rings. It's Kang, but Minho ignores him. Then a man disguised as the police, actually the scheduler, arrives, claiming to investigate a report of someone being held against their will. When the driver steps outside to speak with the police, Kang sneaks inside and forces his way in. Ji-hyun manages to slip out, and Ji-hyun leaves with Kang. In the car, Kang scolds Ji-hyun for foolishly going to Minho's place, thinking she would Ji-hyun. Yoo-soo interrupts, yelling at Kang not to scold Ji-hyun. Ji-hyun reassures him that she's not possessed and that Ji-hyun is sitting next to her. She guesses that Ji-hyun went to retrieve the documents from Minho's secret safe, and Kang finally understands why Ji-hyun had been staying close to him all this time. Minho, furious, throws a bookshelf and vents to In-jung, feeling manipulated by the situation. Song Ji-hyun and Shin Ji-hyun are exactly alike. Who the hell am I in love with? He's clearly confused and obsessed. When meeting with Daddy Shin, Minho admits to being the cause of the problems, confirming his father's suspicions. However, he declares it's too late to stop him and intends to push forward with his plans. Minho's takeover partner is unhappy with the situation. Despite Minho's assurances that the plan is still on track, the partner demands ownership of Daddy Shin's company as part of the deal, and Minho agrees, stating he'll take Hamido and then hand over Shin's company. Kang helps Ji-hyun move her things into heaven. Ji-hyun, exhausted, is carried inside by Yoo-soo and set on the couch. Kang looks at the spot where Ji-hyun would be if he could see her, reflecting the parallel between Ji-hyun's situation and Ji-hyun's. Neither can see their respective guardians, Yoo-soo and Kang, who are both watching over them silently, longing to connect. At dinner, Kang expresses his gratitude to Ji-hyun for her help. Ji-hyun reveals that she felt Ji-hyun's desperation and realized how deeply someone wanted to live, contrasting her own feelings of wanting to die. She downplays her actions, and Kang doesn't press her for further details. Ji-hyun thanks Yoo-soo for rescuing her from Minho, but Yoo-soo dismisses her gratitude, explaining that schedulers are allowed to intervene in emergencies. The show continues to introduce quirky rules and exceptions, especially through the character of Yoo-soo, who always finds a way to bend the system. That night, Kang struggles to sleep on the couch while Ji-hyun and Ji-hyun are in the bedroom. Ji-hyun steps outside for some fresh air, but Ji-hyun stays behind, too weak to join her. As Ji-hyun passes by, she notices Kang pacing anxiously, reflecting on the limited time left, only 6 days. Ji-hyun conveys a message from Ji-hyun. She wants Kang to go inside and sleep, as just being in the same house as him brings her comfort. When Kang asks about Ji-hyun's condition, Ji-hyun shares her feelings of envy, but warns him not to grow attached to Ji-hyun, as she doesn't have much time left. Drawing from her own experiences, Ji-hyun explains that the more you love and trust someone, the harder it is to endure their eventual loss. Kang protests when Ji-hyun talks as if Ji-hyun will die, but Ji-hyun explains that Ji-hyun doesn't believe she'll survive. Kang refuses to give up hope, but Ji-hyun cautions him that clinging to that hope will only make it harder for Ji-hyun. She suggests he think of it as not being meant to be together in this lifetime and try to detach himself. Kang, feeling frustrated, declares that he won't give up until Ji-hyun is gone and asks Ji-hyun not to speak like that in front of Ji-hyun. His passionate plea moves her, and just as he turns to leave, she spins around and embraces him. Ji-hyun backhugs Kang, causing him to initially panic, but then he realizes it's Ji-hyun in Ji-hyun's body. She holds on to him, crying, asking for just a little more time. Kang, understanding now, gently responds, telling her to have Ji-hyun say everything she wants to when she wakes up, and to make sure she doesn't leave without saying goodbye. It's a poignant moment of connection and hope. Ji-hyun, unable to speak as herself, clings to Kang, silently agreeing with his plea to not leave without saying goodbye, just like his mother did. After their brief moment, Kang walks away, leaving Ji-hyun heartbroken. Minho witnesses the scene, his anger growing as he recalls being told that Yik-young had full control of her body. Downstairs, Ji-hyun expresses gratitude to Yik-young, who wishes she could give her life so Ji-hyun could be with Kang. Ji-hyun, however, feels disappointed, realizing that Yik-young's actions were driven by a mix of guilt and attachment, not just concern. In-jung, disturbed by a dream of Ji-hyun haunting her, wakes up feeling haunted, a sign of karma coming her way. At heaven, Yusu watches over Yik-young as she sleeps, overwhelmed with emotion, gently brushing her hair and leaving his hand on her cheek, saying, "This is so cruel." But In-jung, panicked, calls Minho and waits for him all night. When he arrives, he confirms that Yik-young and Ji-hyun's souls are intertwined, though it's unclear what he means exactly. In-jung is terrified, especially after Ji-hyun's warning that she would haunt her forever. Minho proposes a drastic solution: eliminate Ji-hyun's soul, believing it's not a ghost but a wandering spirit. He insists that her father is aware of everything and can't help, so In-jung must handle it. He coldly tells her, "You started it, so you have to end it," leaving In-jung shaken and horrified by the suggestion. Ji-hyun reflects on her limited time with only 4 days left and asks Yik-young if she remembers their interaction from the night before. Ji-hyun smiles as she notes it's the first time she's seen Yik-young smile and wonders if she's no longer afraid of her. She questions why Yik-young isn't more concerned about Yusu, who's coming to see her. Yik-young answers that she knows Yusu is coming to take her with him. Meanwhile, Kang takes Ji-hyun to the market, teaching her how to choose vegetables. She's impressed by his knowledge, and he humorously boasts about his efforts to maintain his appearance. They tease each other playfully, with Ji-hyun joking about Kang Minho's presence, making Kang act petulantly. He eventually agrees to make her breakfast after a bit of back and forth, adding to their lighted banter. Kang makes Ji-hyun breakfast and teases her about working on such a beautiful day while she admits she's off to work. He hands her part-time pay and mentions he's going to the hospital to meet with her dad to file a lawsuit against Minho. Ji-hyun feels relieved after stopping the bankruptcy, expressing she has no regrets or grudges anymore. However, the company's situation is far from secure. Ji-hyun's dad reveals that Haemido's deal is still at risk, requiring a massive sum to ensure the guarantee, and without an investor, Minho's shell company will take over as planned. Minho disrupts the meeting, refusing to resign, and asserts his position, indicating that the fight is far from over. Kang is shocked that In-jung is still working with Minho and refuses to back down. He pleads with her to stop him, but she insists that she can't leave him now, as she's come too far and needs to see things through to the end. Kang points out that this path could lead to murder, but In-jung's justification that she has to keep going because she's already invested so much only frustrates him. Her rationale feels lazy, with Kang correctly calling her out for doing all this despite being Ji-hyun's friend. In-jung admits that, yes, she's been the villain in this situation. The scheduler arrives at heaven and flirts with Ji-hyun, still thinking she's Yik-young in her body. He comments on how he's only able to see her face now, as Ji-hyun is always asleep when she's not controlling the body. He jokingly mentions that at night it looked like a melodrama scene. Ji-hyun corrects him, reminding him not to confuse her for Yik-young. She explains that Yik-young suggested the mellow scenes, and then asks the scheduler if his one wish is to take Yik-young with him when he goes. Ji-hyun tells the scheduler that Yik-young thinks his wish is to take her with him when he leaves, which shocks him. He walks away upset as he struggles with his feelings for Yik-young and his past attachment to Ji-hyun. Meanwhile, In-jung meets with Minho and urges him to back out of their plans and run off with the money. Minho, however, reveals that money isn't his main goal, it's about power and control. He admits to being in love with both Ji-hyun and Yik-young, and then uses this to manipulate In-jung, suggesting that as long as Ji-hyun is around, he'll never be able to be with her, as Ji-hyun might haunt or even possess her. In-jung, enraged by Minho's manipulation, goes to the hospital and attempts to harm Ji-hyun by tampering with her oxygen mask. Ji-hyun, in her spirit form, follows her, horrified. Just as In-jung is about to act, Kang arrives and stops her, furious. He confronts In-jung, questioning her sanity and accusing her of being heartless. In-jung, overwhelmed by guilt, breaks down and leaves without a word. Ji-hyun, emotionally shattered by the close call, is left crying in fear, traumatized by witnessing her own near murder. The next morning, Kang shows up at Minho's apartment, confronting him in a trench coat. He strips away any respect, calling Minho shameless and accusing him of becoming the very person his mother worked hard to prevent his father. Kang drives the point home by reminding Minho that he made the woman who loves him harm her friend Ji-hyun. Minho is visibly shaken by the harsh truths. Kang then taunts him, saying that when Ji-hyun is gone, Kang will be sticking around as both a soul and a body, ready to haunt Minho in his own way. Kang finds Ji-hyun's camera and looks through her old pictures, smiling at the memories. He comes across videos she recorded of her friends pretending to cry, which makes him realize that she has already gone through everything and spent her final days like this. Watching her work outside, his expression is full of unsaid emotions. Manager, noticing him, jokingly tells him it's weird to stare like that, highlighting the bizarre, almost stalker-like atmosphere surrounding everyone in the drama. Kang breaks down in tears in his office, expressing his desperate desire to save Ji-hyun and have her live. Manager O comforts him while Ji-hyun, from the stairs, watches him cry for her. Later, Ji-hyun sobs to the scheduler, wishing she could live as herself for just a few hours to be with Kang. Even calling him Kanga, the scheduler explains there's no way to trade her remaining days for such an opportunity and asks if she's truly resigned to die. Ji-hyun reflects on how she won't even remember anything, including her feelings, and it's a heartbreaking thought for her. No matter the outcome, everything will be forgotten by her. The scheduler comments that it's common for those on the 49-day journey to experience sorrow in the end. Minho escalates his plans by pulling out a major investor from the Hamido project, leaving Daddy Shin scrambling to secure more funds to save his company. Meanwhile, Kang meets with Seo-woo and tries to remind her that Ji-hyun is still alive, reassuring her that people's connections don't vanish after death. Kang receives news from Ji-hyun's mom about the company's troubles and spots Ji-hyun walking back to Heaven. They share a warm moment, both visibly happy to see each other. Ji-hyun playfully pouts about Kang being busy now that she's free, and when he raises his hand towards her face, he stops himself, creating an intense and bittersweet moment. Kang and Ji-hyun walk together, their hands brushing but unable to touch, creating a sweet, bittersweet moment. Kang decides to take a bold step and asks his estranged father in the States to invest in Hamido, knowing it's a significant favor, but also seeing the opportunity since Minho has set things up well. However, Kang is unaware that Ji-hyun only has 3 days left, not the 5 he thinks. He plans his trip thinking he has enough time to both secure the investment and spend time with Ji-hyun, but he's unknowingly racing against time. Minho tries to send In-jung abroad, offering her money to leave before her presence causes more trouble. However, In-jung wants him, not the money, and protests. When Ji-hyun's mom shows up and runs into Minho, she's confronted with the situation. In-jung sends Minho away and then gets slapped by Ji-hyun's mom. Instead of feeling apologetic, In-jung becomes defiant, blaming her for everything, including the love Ji-hyun received from her parents. She accuses them of taking her in, making her feel that their kindness was the reason for her actions. Despite not being their daughter, Ji-hyun seeks advice from Yik-young on a nice gesture for Kang, and Yik-young suggests making kimbap, just like she used to do for Yusu. Meanwhile, Kang is quietly preparing to leave without telling Ji-hyun, not wanting her to worry about the company's problems during her last days. Ji-hyun, unaware of his departure, goes to Yik-young's apartment to secretly prepare kimbap, but Minho surprises her. He's there to arrange a contract for the apartment in Yik-young's name, leaving Ji-hyun puzzled. Meanwhile, the scheduler is training his replacement, reflecting on his final reaping task. Ji-hyun returns to Haven with the kimbap she made for Kang, only to find out from manager that Kang has left for America. Manager covers by saying it's due to family matters and that Kang will be back in 2 days. Ji-hyun, distressed and heartbroken, runs outside calling for Kang, sobbing uncontrollably as she fears she won't be around when he returns. Her pain and helplessness are heart-wrenching. Ji-hyun is devastated, crying in her spirit form, and Yik-young tries to comfort her, but Ji-hyun knows she won't be around when Kang returns. Yik-young, feeling the weight of the situation, also expresses her sorrow about leaving. Yik-young then visits Dr. Na, saying goodbye and thanking him for his care. The scheduler arrives to deliver Ji-hyun's final notice, informing her she has only 16 hours left, with strict instructions to leave no trace behind. Meanwhile, In-jung, having lost everything, lies alone in her apartment. Seo sits with her, reflecting on Ji-hyun and Kang's bond. On her last day, Ji-hyun buys thoughtful gifts for Yik-young, including skincare products and underwear, as a way of caring for her Unai after she's gone. On her last day, Ji-hyun takes a walk, soaking in the world around her, noticing small things like a rock in her path, which she calls pretty. It's both heartbreaking and uplifting. She visits Seo to buy a cake for her parents' anniversary, and Seo gets playfully jealous that Baekhyun knows Ji-hyun so well. Ji-hyun reassures her that they are best friends and shares how Ji-hyun once said she loved Seo the most after her parents. Later, Ji-hyun brings the cake to the hospital, wishing her parents a happy anniversary. They reminisce, recalling how Ji-hyun used to sing them a song, and she plays a CD she brought for them. Ji-hyun asks Yik-young to help her eject her soul, and as a song Kang's mother's favorite plays, she stands in her spirit form and sings, causing an emotional moment. Yik-young watches her and is moved to tears. Back at heaven, Yik-young reflects on the different types of parents, some who abandon their children and others who lose them. Ji-hyun counters that she was lucky to not be abandoned, but Yik-young shares her painful experience of being neglected by her mother after the birth of her younger brother. Yik-young opens up about her own deep feelings of abandonment and how she tried repeatedly to end her life, only to be stopped by something each time. She shares that it was on the anniversary of Yusu's death and apologizes to Ji-hyun for the struggles she caused her. Ji-hyun gives Yik-young the best gift she could offer, a heartfelt message to live well, find strength in tough times, and hold on to the lessons learned from regrets. Yik-young wakes up to find Ji-hyun gone, leaving behind a present and a breakfast set. The scheduler offers Ji-hyun a ride, and she asks for the elevator to take her now, not wanting to linger in the last moments. She thanks him, but he avoids her eyes, saving the goodbye for the elevator. Meanwhile, Seo visits Ji-hyun's mom at the hospital, where the doctor informs them that there's no hope left for Ji-hyun. Yik-young opens the present Ji-hyun left for her, finding a note from Ji-hyun thanking her and telling her not to worry as she won't be returning. The note encourages Yik-young to take care of herself, and she begins to cry, deeply moved by Ji-hyun's gesture. Meanwhile, Ji-hyun and the scheduler arrive in the garden. Ji-hyun urges him to hurry and call the elevator, as she doesn't want to change her mind. As the clouds darken, the scheduler calls the elevator, but then notices Ji-hyun's necklace light up. A tear falls, surprising both of them. The necklace glows again, signaling the third tier. At the hospital, Ji-hyun's mom holds her tightly, crying, while Seo stands behind her, finally shedding tears for her friend. Ji-hyun and the scheduler exchange stunned looks, and then Ji-hyun opens her eyes in the hospital.